So, Charlotte and Caleb, why don't you guys come on up and join in with us up here. As many of you know, Charlotte and Caleb and I, we're going to just put these kind of in a little circle around this. Yeah, you can come a little closer. Is that okay? And then you can take that, and I'm going to get the other mic. So Charlotte and Caleb and I were in Haiti not too long ago. We left on October 23rd and came back on the 30th. And so it has, in some ways, feels like that was really recently, and in other ways, it's kind of felt like a long time. It's been a couple of Sundays since we've been back, or maybe even 3, and so it has felt almost odd to not be able to share with you kind of what our experiences were like, and it's been, for me, I've been so nervous about this morning. I'm not usually nervous on Sunday mornings, and I think it's because I just have a strong desire to share our hearts and a strong desire to kind of let you in on what this experience has been. A lot of it for me personally is friendships, people who I've been friends with in Haiti for a long time, and recognizing that it's been 4 years since I've been there, actually coming up on 5 years. It was January of 2019 that I was last in Haiti, and before that I was going pretty much every year. And so it's been quite a long break, and this season has been really hard. It's been a very, very intense season for Haiti. And so I think that's part of my nervousness is just how to communicate well that story and how things are going with my friends in Haiti. So we're going to launch in. Caleb and Charlotte, this was their first time in Haiti, and so I'm going to do quite a bit of asking of them to describe and kind of show you around. This is the team that we went with. So you'll see Evan is taking the picture here. So Evan DeWald has been part of the Haiti team that our Canadian churches has put together. Evan, myself, and then also Tara Lindsley is the 3 of us are with some other folks who are part of the Haiti team for the oversee our partnerships in Haiti. And then, so Charlotte and Caleb came along, and then also you see Otto right here, Otto DeWald, Evan's son. So we brought 2 15-year-olds and a 14-year-old with us, and it was a wonderful combination, a wonderful team. And so this is us arriving in Haiti. We went to northern Haiti, just to clarify. We were not in southern Haiti, which makes a very big difference in terms of safety and kind of the political and socio realities. And so we arrived in Cape Haitian, and we started to drive. So as we kind of work through some of these photos, can you guys describe what did you see as we arrived and as we kind of started traveling in Cape Haitian in the city? You want to start, Charlotte?
Sure. What I really noticed when we first got there was that it was really different from North America in a sense of like the way people moved around. So here we usually line up when we're waiting for things, and on the road we make 2 straight lines that are going in opposite directions. And in Haiti, it was all a push kind of method. So you did not line up you just shove towards where you want it to be. And it was the same thing on the roads. So basically, you'd have a road that was full of potholes and really hard to drive on, and everyone was just trying to be on the best side of the road. And so that was the first thing that was really overwhelming, was the way people drove. Yes, and a lot of motorcycles with a lot of people on them. Yeah, so that was the first thing I noticed. Yeah,
I kind of, when we got back from driving that day, I kind of wrote down just like a list sort of a few things that I noticed, and I'm just going to read it. Okay, so first and foremost are the swarming masses of people. People in trucks, on bikes, at shops, in doorways, and walking everywhere. The list goes on. And many people are simply just sitting there and observing the beauty of the chaos from the shade. So one thing is there's far too many vehicles on the road, like from our perspective, and like X times the number of regular lanes. So how the road kind of works is there's the road, and then there's the sidewalk, and those two kind of blend together. And then there's the ditch, and then the houses that are just basically right there, in the city at least. And yeah, so a few things that we saw just as we were driving north, we saw things like shacks that were called banks, but they're really lotteries, and empty gas stations, market stalls, beggars who would come up to our windows, to whom we simply said no. I felt cruel, but I also recognized that like giving them $1 is not going to change their situation. There were tables placed at intervals that were piled with parts and tools. There were jugs of gas being sold. There were mechanics and welders in the middle of the road. And we saw 6 people on a Singer motorbike. There were school children waiting and walking about. And this is only like a little bit of what we saw, but there's just a lot of poverty. But I think what I realized is that behind the poverty is life.
Yeah, and it's normal. What felt so, what can feel so odd or new or different to us is somebody else's normal. And so tell us then, we came out of the city and we traveled to a town that's called Haute-Limbé, and people from our church have traveled there. It is what's called rural, even though we would say it's not super rural, but it's comparatively the rural area. So we got there and we started walking. So tell us what that was like when you were more out in Haute-Limbé. What was it like to walk around?
I think the roads were a lot worse in the rural areas, but there were less cars, so it didn't feel as dangerous. Like in the city, it felt like there was always a ton going on and that I had like absolutely no control of anything. But in the rural area, it was just like walking down a normal alley, except that there were a lot of people everywhere still, which was really interesting. It's like they didn't have anything to do but sit and talk with each other and watch people go by. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we didn't see it.
Yeah. Anything green?
Oh my God. It was beautiful, and like the trees just kind of took control of everything. Like if you weren't carefully watching your property and keeping things pruned down, it was crazy how the trees would just take over.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like you can maybe like see a little bit easier like what people were actually doing in their houses or in their yards. We saw a lot of people playing some sort of like board game, and if you lose, then you have to take like a clothespin and like pin it to your face somewhere. So there were some people that were evidently pretty bad at the game because their face was just covered in clothespins.
That's right. That's awesome. So these pictures are a little bit more of the Haute-Limbe area, and we're going to tell you now about the 4 projects that we were able to visit. They're the 4 projects that our Canadian Covenant churches partner with. All 4 projects are led by Haitians. There is a Haitian vision and dream for these projects, and we have the privilege of being able to partner with them. So the purpose of our trip was really to check in with each of the leaders and the projects, and to check in, be present, and encourage. And so the first day, the kind of after sleeping that first night, we started out with aquaculture. So Caleb's going to just describe a little bit about how the fish ponds work, and why this is such a great resource for farmers. We have 2 leaders, Valerie, and then a guy whose nickname is Half Charger, because when he was really little, he was really, really good with electronics, and everybody called him Half Charger. He's very tall now. And these 2 guys they help farmers get into aquaculture, get into having fish ponds. And so just describe a little bit how it works, Caleb.
Okay, so basically you have like chickens or pigs next to your fish pond, and you take the manure from the animals and you put it in the pond, and then the ammonia from the manure, it is one of the things that feeds the algae in the water, along with oxygen and sunlight. And so then the fish can eat the algae, and then you can eat the fish. So it's a source of food for the family, and then also they can sell the fish for profit. One thing that you have to be careful about is you have to every week remove a certain amount of water so that the pond doesn't become too green, because if there's too much algae, they'll be taking out of the water too much oxygen, and it'll kind of starve the fish in a way.
Yeah. So every week or so, they'll take water and put it on, and so you can see that previous picture. This pond is right next to a rice field. The rice field is just getting, the guy was plowing it. I mean, and by plowing it, I mean with a hoe by hand in the pouring rain. And they're getting ready to plant. So you want to get that green water, a certain percentage out, and put fresh water in, just to keep the balance right. But that water, as you can imagine, is wonderful fertilizer for plants as well. So one of the farmers that we got to meet was Ronnie. So tell us a little bit about Ronnie, Charlotte.
So a lot of the ponds, as we walked around, were kind of sad to look in, because it looked like they didn't have a lot of life. Either you couldn't see any fish, or it was murky brown, didn't look like a lot of algae. But one of the last ponds we went to visit was Farmer Ronnie's
yes.
pond. And he hadn't even heard from Valerie or Half Charger how the pond system worked. He had just heard it from someone in passing and decided he was going to go and dig himself a pond. So that afternoon, he went and dug himself this huge pond, and because he was just trusting that, he was oh, I hope this will work. And he because of the rice fields, the pond wasn't draining. So because a lot of farmers have that problem, is their pond just drains and then they're out of water. But Farmer Ronnie's pond was incredible. It was beautiful to see, and it was full of fish. And he's building I think 3 more now. And so it was really hopeful to see, because a lot of the other ponds were a little bit sad, but this one, he's really dedicated to his fish pond. And I think he's helping both his family and his community through it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So that day we got very wet. I don't know if you can tell, but it rained a lot while we were in Haiti this time. Just to give you a little reference point, we only put sunscreen on like one day. And so we came home, tried to get cleaned up. We actually, quite a few, I think you guys showered in the rain, so that worked well. The next day, we got to meet with the Sarepta group. Now, the Sarepta group is mainly led by a woman named Madame Marc. Her late husband was named Mark, and this is the tradition in Haiti to be called by your husband's name. And so Madame Marc, this is her talking next to Elio, the translator. And Madame Marc has an amazing story. She was widowed at a fairly young age with 5 children. And so she was not in a very easy situation herself. And yet, on Sundays at worship, one of the things she kept noticing was that the elderly, there would be elderly people who were at worship who would end up fainting. And they were fainting from hunger. They hadn't eaten for too long of a time. And so something that Madame Marc talked to her 5 kids, and she said, okay, it might mean that you get a little bit less on Sundays, but I'm going to invite other people to come and eat with us. And so it started as her trying to have the elderly, the elderly who didn't have means to feed themselves and their families were unable to help them. She would have them come and eat breakfast with her and her family before church. And so over time, a group of people have gathered along with Madame Marc. Today, 2 of her kids are part of that team as they're adults. And they put together packets of groceries, and they call them kits. And so a kit of groceries goes to each of the elders. There's about 110 elders on the list. They receive, every month, they receive a kit of groceries that can help them for the month. And so this project is something that the Covenant Church in Canada started partnering with about 13 years ago. And that's been an ongoing way that we've been able to support a vision of Haitians wanting to help those in their community. So a couple things that we noticed as we met with the Sarepta group this time. The amount of money that our Canadian churches send every month, it used to cover a kit for each of those 110 elderly people. It would cover them for the month or give them a good base for the month. And so what they're finding now is that amount of money actually only provides for a grocery kit that lasts about a week. And so inflation, we know quite a bit about inflation in Canada in these last while here, and increasing food costs. But in Haiti, the amount of inflation, the increasing food costs is astronomical. What used to last a month is lasting a week. And so this also is, the other part of the reality is that there's not just 110 elderly that need the support. There's quite a few more, and yet there's not the resources to help with others. So, tell us a little, Charlotte, about your observations as we met with the Sarepta group.
Yeah, when we were sitting in a circle and we were all chatting about the program, and I think it was just really hard for, especially Madame Marc, but all of them to explain to us, because they're like, I know it's the same amount of money and I know we're feeding the same amount of people, but the food isn't going as far. And I think they were a bit worried, that we wouldn't understand really what was going on. And so I think it was pretty stressful for them, and also that what they're seeing is we don't just want to be feeding 110 people. Madame Marc is really a servant. And so when she sees people suffering, right, she wants to help them. And I think it's really hard on her to now be doing less than she was before instead of more.
Yeah.
So that was really hard to see.
Yeah. And Caleb?
So yeah, Madame Mark is like a servant, like you said. So an example of that is like, the next day we were at a conference and there was a meal for the people there, and in Haitian fashion, everyone was kind of just pushing towards the table to get the food. And so Madame Mark just got up and worked her way in there and just kind of stood in the middle of this crowd and just served food over her shoulder to people and stuff. And no one had asked her to do that. She just decided to do it. And after the meal was over, she cleaned up, and yeah, she's just a really caring and loving person.
Yeah. Yeah, she's an amazing person to have the privilege to know. And yeah, we got to see her in action a few times. It's like she couldn't help herself. She just kind of elbowed her way in there and helps and loves. So yeah, the next day we were able to attend and help out with a diabetic conference. So diabetes is epidemic in Haiti. It's a very complicated disease because of the lack of nutrition. In terms of there's not enough food for a lot of people. And so the mission of the clinic, the Santé 2000 clinic, has been to help specifically the diabetic people of Haiti. They care for all sorts of people, but there's a special place and mission towards those who have diabetes. And so the last time that I went, in 2019, we were able to be part of the first time a conference was put on. And so the clinic and Dr. Mano put on a whole day of getting together for diabetic patients. And the value of this getting together is more than just dispensing information. The highest value is actually about people being able to talk with their neighbors and to say, oh, you have diabetes as well. What is it like for you? And to talk with one another, to learn from one another, to actually share experiences. Culturally, it's been quite an uphill battle to learn that how diabetes works, because traditionally it has been considered just that somebody must have put a curse on you. And then so the understanding of from a kind of a biological kind of perspective has been difficult. And so during the conference, people were able to sit in groupings. We helped set up the chairs, and we kind of made kind of groupings of chairs so that people then sat with people from their region. People traveled from quite a distance in order to be there. The clinic serves about 400 or 400 to 500 diabetic patients. And so the fact it was raining that day, and things really get shut down in Haiti when it's raining. And so the fact that 100 people came was actually quite remarkable and really good. So the pictures you've been seeing are just kind of how that took place. Maybe we could play the video. That conference was just a really good experience. We're also going to tell you then about the clinic, because the work of the clinic is really significant in the community. Healthcare, there is no kind of public healthcare at all. And so even if you're in the direst of situations and you cannot pay upfront prior to being helped, you don't receive any help. And so the clinic and their presence in the community, they run a program called the Agape program, where people can pay what they can. And so there's a sliding scale based on their ability, and if they cannot pay at all, it is covered by the clinic. So tell us, that day the clinic was very, very busy because after the conference, everybody came to pick up medications and so on. But we stopped by the clinic at other times. Do you want to just give some impressions of visiting the clinic?
I would say that the clinic was the hardest thing I saw that trip. Walking in there, it was kind of like, this is a hospital? Like it really was like at a barn level for like cleanliness and tech-wise. Like it was, yeah. So we walked in and there was like the room where the nurse would stay if she had to stay overnight. And it was really moldy. And then we kept walking and they had some like real hospital beds and nice rooms. But then we kept going and like there was no room for the people who were sick to stay. Like they would just be put anywhere they would fit. But it wasn't like each person got a private room, and there wasn't enough staff to like care for each person individually. So a person from the family of whoever was sick would have to come and sit by the bed and feed them and make sure they were doing all right. And yeah, so it was really hard to see.
This is the second clinic. So the first clinic that Mono was a part of is the Ebenezer Clinic, and we went and visited this clinic, and it's worlds different. It's so much nicer than the Sunday 2000 clinic. So there's like a separate room that's kind of like the hospital room. There's like bathrooms. There's places for the family members to stay. There's like proper beds and separate rooms, and there's just so much more infrastructure there. And that's because in the past we've been giving building supplies to this clinic and donating money and helping to build up that facility. But yeah, so he left that clinic and then started this new clinic. And kind of from that experience, we've decided that it's more worth to give money to people rather than to buildings. And that was something that it was really difficult for me to understand, because like if they had a better facility, they could care for people so much better. But all that money could have been used to save someone's life, right? So that was difficult for me about that part.
Yeah. This woman here, her name is Berta, and she's a diabetic patient who had a wound on her foot. And so she ended up staying at the clinic for quite a few weeks. They were working on getting this wound to heal. It was not working, and the staff got to a point where they recognized that probably the only way to save her life was for the foot would have to be removed. And that's a surgery that's beyond the capacity of the clinic. And so that needed to happen in one of the hospitals in the city. And so, but of course, again, this requires payment. There's no family that are able to support or willing to support Berta. And so the staff got together. This is to explain the caliber of the staff at the clinic. They got together, and doctors and nurses, and discussed Berta's situation, they decided that they would go without pay that month, so that that money that would pay their salaries would be able to take Berta's foot off, so to save her life. And so this is what they're facing, and the kind of decisions that they're needing to make very regularly. So this is Berta was in the hospital for about 11 days post-surgery, and now she's back at the clinic. And Tara and Evan were able to do an interview with her, and eventually that you'll see that on social media. We are going to be sharing a lot of the stories and videos that we gathered from our trip, and you'll have a chance along the way to hear Berta's story. A remarkable story, especially for the staff. The Sente 2000 nurses and doctors are pretty incredible people. So that kind of brings us around to talking a little bit more about Dr. Mono. He is a long-term friend. I've known him, well, I realized that I've known him longer than I've known Caleb, who's my son. I got to know him about a year or 2 years before Caleb came along, and just a remarkable man. So Caleb, tell us a little bit about hearing, you get to hear Mono tell his story. And what was that like?
Yeah, so he has like a really interesting story. So when he was a kid, he was in a very poor family, but there was a missionary family that was staying in Olimbe, and they wanted Mono to teach their son Creole. And so I think the rule was something like his son and Mono could only speak Creole with each other or something like that. But from that family, Mono also learned like the English sentence like what is this? So he just used that and asked, what is this? And built up an English vocabulary. So that's how he learned English. After that, he went to high school, and it was like really fortunate that he could go because like it's expensive. And so he was the first person in his family to get to high school. So that was really special. But when he was in high school, because because he came from such a poor family, he kind of was belittled in some way. So one funny story they told us from high school was he met somebody named Max in high school, and how Mono said it, he said, I was poor and he was ugly. So these two kind of naturally came together, and they made a radio station. They made a radio station, and on the station they would basically mock people in the high school. And so people got a little afraid of them, so kind of left them alone after that. So, Mono wanted to go to medical school after that because he had seen how many doctors in Haiti would treat like a patient like they're not a human being. And so it's like they would not do treatment if they couldn't pay or something like that. And so Mono wanted to be a doctor. But the process to become a doctor in Haiti is difficult because you need to be referred into the school by like someone in the military, or if there's someone in your family who's already a doctor. And so he had to travel to the Dominican Republic, which is the country on the same island but just next door. So he entered that country with only his passport. And so he found a church whose pastor was sort of sympathetic towards Haitians. And so he he slept on a pew every night. And yeah, but the big struggle there was in the Dominican Republic, they speak Spanish, not Creole. So he had to learn Spanish to do medical school. So how he learned Spanish was every morning or evening he would ask the pastor for the newspaper once he was done with it. And he would read it and try to understand it. And if there was a word that he didn't know, he would go to the dictionary and learn it, and then also learn the word above and below in the dictionary. And so slowly he built up his vocabulary. And then on the radio, they would read the newspaper kind of for the daily news, and he was able to follow along and slowly build up his Spanish. And then he was able to do medical school with that. So he just is a really determined person, and yeah.
Yeah. Charlotte, talk a little bit about what it was like to stay at Mano's house, and also kind of what it was like kind of observing Mano at work, leading the clinic, and kind of as a doctor.
It was really interesting to stay at his house because there were always random people there. Like, he would just take in anyone who needed work or needed a place to stay or needed anything, and he would just have them in his home. So then he had a lot of people who would work for him because he wanted them to be able to have a job. And also, after seeing the place where he worked and how hard his job was, but also the decisions that he had to make concerning people's lives, and just that they didn't have enough money in the community to support the clinic. But he had all these hard decisions, and he would come home, and I would have expected him to be really sad or stressed out. And I mean, maybe he was a bit some days, but what you saw the most was his joy. He was always joyful. Every time he came home, he was smiling, and you could not have a conversation with him without him bursting out laughing all the time. And so it was really, really cool to stay at his house and just see his joy, even in such a hard situation. And also, Dr. Mano has had lots of opportunities to leave Haiti. And usually that's a Haitian's dream, because they see so much suffering in their country. The goal is to get to America or Canada and work and send money home for their family. And no Haitian really wants to leave, but they feel that they need to in order for their family to thrive at all. And so Dr. Mano, he could have left, and he has an education and he could work elsewhere, but he chooses to stay in Haiti because he loves his people and he wants to be able to serve them in his country, which was really cool.
Yeah. At considerable sacrifice. One of the things I remember when we were first getting situated, and those of us who've known Mano for a long time had said to the teens, well, when Mano first came back to Haute-Limbe after having done medical school, sleeping on a church pew, when he first got back, then he worked for a number of years without any pay, because he wanted to give people the care they needed. And so he chose to work without pay. And so then I remember Charlotte goes, wait a minute, is Mano getting paid now? Yes, he is getting paid, except when he wants a patient to have their life saved, which is frequently. So yeah, an amazing person. Dr. Mano continues to inspire us. He's an incredible gift to the world and a gift to me. And so he is one of the people who brings hope just by being who he is. And we wanted to list a few other people. One of the really hopeful things. This trip was the opportunity that it wasn't always planned, but we were able to meet some remarkable people. Next to Dr. Rano, we also got to meet a guy named Elio. He was a young man years ago when a team from Canada first met him because he was playing the drums really loud, and a drummer from Canada had come and he went and wanted to find the guy who was playing the drums really loud at church. And so Elio has gone on he was given a scholarship. He studied, did his degrees in Tennessee, and chose to return to Haute-Limbe because he cares about his community. And Elio, with some of the things he's done with his training is developing a true, doing what's it called? Sorry, why can't I? Census. I was going to say censor, but it was like not the right word. So Elio has done the first census that's ever happened in Haute-Limbe, and he did it based on the principles, scientific principles of a true census. And so he has a lot of data in terms of understanding the patterns and what are the needs of the community. So he was a really remarkable person to get to know. And I was supposed to not talk. Okay, sorry. Peter. Can we go to Peter? Okay, so Peter is the manager of the Santé 2000 clinic. He is an amazing partner to Dr. Mano because of his skills and his way of being in the world. He just complements who Mano is so well. It was wonderful, and he's also full of joy, full of laughter. It was wonderful to get to spend time with him and watch how he works. He trained as a pastor, and so the way in which he is walking and working with especially the agape patients of the clinic, he's a pastoral presence. And I noticed that the staff also call him pastor as a nickname because of how he cares and helps. So Peter was amazing. So tell us a little bit more about Elio, you guys.
So as
I already-
Kirsten said, Evan and Kirsten, I guess too, had known Elio for a really long time. And he actually came to translate for the Sarepta group, which was a big surprise because we weren't expecting him. And they were
I don't think he was expecting it either. He just kind of got grabbed.
They were supposed to have a different translator who couldn't come or something, and so then Elio showed up. And then Evan was like, oh my goodness, we want to do a podcast with you. So then Elio came back, and we got to listen in on his life story, which was pretty cool too.
What did you learn? What kind of dating advice did you learn from Elio?
Well, Elio's a very methodical person. So I maybe shouldn't tell the story now, but if you want to hear how he courted his wife, I will tell you the story. It's really funny.
Get the information later. Either of them can tell you. Yeah. Caleb, tell a little bit about what struck you about Elio.
I just really liked how he was like data driven. So it was like if we wanted to talk to him about something, he could give us like really exact information. And yeah, so I did an interview with him for kind of a project I'm doing, just asking him some questions about like sustainability and like what does sustainability and like fighting climate change look like in Haiti. So he's really big on local, so buying things locally, doing things locally, because in Haiti, and here too, if if you buy food from a farmer in your community, you're benefiting the farmer. So the money is kind of stays in your community. And yeah, he just had a lot of really, really good ideas, I think.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been praying about for quite a while, as it pertains both to the Sarepta feeding program for the elderly, but also for the Petite Aunts children feeding program, we've been wondering how could we help the community more by buying the food from the community, from the farmers. And so Elio really just kind of showed up, and he's a wonderful resource for connecting specifically with local farmers and in this kind of way. So we're really excited about the potential in that partnership coming up. Janine is someone else who brings hope. She has been there. She will walk up from her place and works at Dr. Mano's whenever we have visited. She's been kind of a primary cook and just joyful, kind, full of gracious presence. She does some embroidery, and so she had embroidered this. I got this from her, and she is just the kind of person who is willing to put in the work. Incredibly hard worker and a beautiful person. So the other hopeful people that we encountered were the kids. So you guys tell us about the kids.
In Haute Bay, the kids they don't have after-school activities or video games to play after school, so they all go back to the school grounds after having gone home and probably had a snack or something. Anyway, they come back and they all play together, and the boys play soccer, but I don't think they let the girls play soccer.
It seems as though the girls are not supposed to play soccer. Yeah.
But a lot of them only spoke Creole, but some of them who spoke French at home were able to speak French, so I could communicate with them. Well, both Caleb and I could communicate with them. And we just had so much fun every day after we met them until, we'd stay out till it was dark and then walk home with surrounded by a swarm of children. And yeah, we had a lot of fun playing with them.
Yeah, including a lot of nail polish.
Yes, we painted a lot of nails.
Caleb became a pellet. He has very large fingers, so I think it was very satisfying to the girls. Yeah, a lot of nail polish, a lot of soccer. Otto is like a soccer star in Alberta, and so Otto would play soccer with the kids. He played soccer with much older guys who, are incredibly good. So that was pretty awesome. I think that was just a really cool fit. So lots of fun with the children. What about you, Caleb?
Yeah, the kids, they taught us a lot of interesting games and showed us a lot of cool things. One girl she spoke French and we hung out with her in particular is Juliana. And yeah, she would just come and come seek us every day, and yeah, she would show us around and try to she was just really sweet. If there was she would be oh, careful, the ground's uneven here, or she was just taking care of us.
Yeah.
And every day she would come to Dr. Mano's house if we weren't outside yet, and she'd yell, Charlotte, Caleb, come out, what are you doing? Yeah, she was really sweet.
Yeah, we heard her voice quite a few times. Charlotte, come on out. So the children bring an incredible amount of hope. On the way home, actually, on the plane, Caleb and Charlotte and I were looking through my pictures from 2019 and found multiple pictures of those particular kids, 4 or 5 years later, which was really cool to see their progress and growth. So we also just notice a lot of hope when we're in Haiti around coming out of creation. It is a beautiful, an incredible place. One of the mornings we got up really early and we hiked up the mountain in order to watch the sunrise. There's a lot of mountains. We're in a valley in Haute-Limbe, and it's surrounded by mountains. And so right behind Mano's house, there's a mountain we climbed up. We almost made it to the top before the sun came up. I think these guys would have been up, but some of us were a little slower. So this is just some mountaintop views, full of hope. So the last project that we were hoping to visit was going to be on Saturday, and it's the Petite Aunts Feeding Program that our church particularly supports and is a part of. We were hoping to be able to see Yesimanette, who is the director of that program. She had actually given birth to her second child about a week and a half before. And so I was really looking forward to being able to meet her new little boy and also her daughter that she's had since I've last been there. And we were so disappointed that we could not go. So Petite Aunts is a slum area on the edge of Cape Haitian, the city. It's actually on the edge of the water. And so people have kind of tried to build up and kind of get a little bit more access to land through garbage. And so it adds to the desperation of this neighborhood where people are trying to make a living somehow in a place where really it's not good to live. And so the Petite Aunts Feeding Program happens, this is the church building. That previous picture, this is the outside wall. And then the children meet in the inside, and that's where the rice and beans and chicken, whenever possible, is fed or is made for them on Tuesdays and Saturdays are the two feeding days each week. And so as we were flying out, this was from the plane. Just from the amount of rain we were having, and this just gives an idea of how people they have nowhere else to go, and this is how they're living. This is normal, to wade through water to get anywhere. So this is why we were not able to go. On Friday night, a group of people decided to create a blockade, and they parked multiple trucks. I think I've got a picture of the trucks across the road. You saw some footage of what the road is like. This is the main road for the country in order to get to Cape Haitian, which is the second largest city in and the road is terrible. It's almost impassable in places. And so this is one of the worst spots. And so a blockade was made in order to force the government to do some road repair. So it brings everything to a stop when the road is blocked. And so it's putting some pressure on the government to do some work. And so because of that blockade, that's the only way that we can travel to Petite Aunts. It's also the only way we can travel to get to the airport. And so Mano did not feel that it was wise for us to pass through the blockade. How we did get to the airport is we drove up to the blockade, walked across. It's about a 25-minute walked across, then get into another vehicle, and that's how we got to the airport. He wasn't really crazy about us doing that to Petite Aunts, back home, and then again the next morning. And so he felt like crossing it once is good, crossing it 3 times, not so good, because it's very exposed, and there's a pattern. And so we really needed to rely on Mono's discretion of what to do and where to go and what was wise to do. And so I know for me personally, it was, even though I was prepared for something like this could happen, that we may not be able to get there, I felt it so strongly. It felt kind of like a kick to the gut. So we were then discussing what else could we do today, what are the other things that we could use this day for, and I kind of said, well, I just want to go. Can I go across? I'll wear sweatshirts in the 30 degrees, 100% humidity. I'll do whatever I need to do to cover that I'm this white lady walking around. And so we did make an effort. Mono said there is a back roads kind of way, and as a farm girl, I know what the back road way kind of entails, but it had rained a lot. So the mud was incredible on this back road route. There were many vehicles that had tried, and so that was creating its own blockade of the abandoned vehicles. In addition, some other trucks had also been parked to just stop, because if it's not a full blockade, it doesn't put the pressure that's needed on the Haitian government. So I think, we felt like we had done what we could in order to be there. It was so disappointing to not be able to be there in person. I shared some pictures from previous trips. Our heart is with the children of Petite Aunts and also with the parents. It's a group of mothers who are the volunteers that do the cooking of the rice and the beans. And they will do anything in order for their children to be fed. One of the hopeful things was this idea of there might be some good connections for accessing rice and beans locally, which has been a dream of ours for quite a long time. And so we're leaning into the hopeful things while we, at the same time, grieve. There has been, of course, a huge increase in children and people who are hungry in Haiti. And so for many of the children, we feed about 160 children every week on Tuesday and Saturday. And that number is what we can do, but the need is far, far greater. And so that's similar to the other feeding program, where what we have just doesn't go as far. What we can provide, what resources we can offer, don't go as far as they need to. So, right now the feeding program is out of rice, out of beans. We partner with another organization called Food for the Poor, and they're based in Toronto, and they do shipments of rice and beans. And so the shipments have not been coming very easily, largely trying to get out of the port in Port-au-Prince. And so we're waiting on rice and beans. In the meantime, we're trying to use the funds that we've sent that mostly buy the other supplies. We're trying to use those funds to buy rice and beans as we can, but we're running low. Next week, we're going to be out, and so I know I carry that quite a bit in my heart, and I know that for Charlotte's family, you guys have invested a lot of heart and time And I know it was really hard for Charlotte and Caleb also to not be able to go. Even though we couldn't go and learn directly in Petite Aunts, what do you feel like you picked up from being in Haiti?
One thing that I realized was that there's like a range of poverty, even in like the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. So like if you look at Cape Haitian or Holembe versus Petite Aunts, it's like, it's even worse in Petite Aunts than anything we'd seen. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that the teens were really bracing themselves for going to Petite Aunts. And so it was a letdown. A lot of our Haitian friends who are working and who are in Haute Limbe, when they have traveled, they have also experienced a bit of a shock in traveling and in coming and visiting Petite Aunts. So one of the things that we started our trip with, we talked a little bit about that when we would come away from the trip, we would come away with impressions, but we'd also come away with convictions. So what kind of convictions do you feel like you guys are coming away from our trip to Haiti with?
Something I felt a lot was the idea of generosity. People there, like, they took care of us naturally when we were there, but they take care of each other, like they take care of their community, and it's out of their poverty that they are generous. And so it's interesting to come home and it's like, maybe I need to work on generosity because I have so much. And being in Haiti, it was like, whoa, there are people who have
something that you did not do. And so, like, the idea that he used was like, if there's a pothole in the road and you're just standing by it, and then a motorbike comes along and the motorbike goes into the pothole, everyone flies off and dies. Are you responsible for their deaths? And so I'm just kind of like shifting my perspective a little bit. So it's like, we can't just be bystanders, like next to Haiti. We have to try to fix what we can. And even if we can't do a lot, like what matters is that we did something. And that's probably the biggest thing that I came away with.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys, for sharing. And thanks for listening. I just want to circle back a little bit to that Matthew 25 passage that Beulah and I read this morning. What does it look like for us to be partners with God in this global world that we live in? What is living cautiously? I think part of the people who brought us the most hope are not living cautiously in Haiti. And what a gift they are to us, for us to be able to watch that and see that, experience that. And then what does it look like for us to live with full investment of who we are and who God's made us to be, what God's given us? Where we're born, we don't have any say in. And so, this is part of our joy and our great gift, our privilege, to be able to be friends with people in Haiti and to be friends with people who are living in very different conditions than we are. So thank you for listening.